to our page for edit. At least that's what I want to do. How did you guys do it? I think somebody at least had so you just clicked in here to start editing, right? Yeah. So you had content editable on here. So stick content editable as an attribute on what you want to change. And in our case, it's the span. It's the span that has the dyno name in it, right? So if we just add the attribute content editable, set it to true, refresh. Now we can click in here and start changing them. But it doesn't do anything yet. So how do we make it save? If this is how we do it. Who else had that working? Had edit working? What'd you do? Yeah.
I had a separate button, but when I clicked the button, it would save it to the array.
Okay, cool. Anybody do it without a button? Mr. Glass. Sorry.
I just had it where you could click anywhere on the body.
And how did you do that?
In the body, you just add
Add an on-click to body? Okay. Well, what'd you do, Kyle?
I made it so that when they click on it, it saves it, and when they move their mouse on, it also saves it.
Okay, mouse out. Yeah, Andrew?
I listened for that call input on your table row, which saves it
Whenever a key was pressed? Tom, did I see your hand? Who else? Anybody else? Yeah. Sorry, Jaden. Listen for blur. So basically, right now it has focus, right? If I click somewhere else, it no longer does. That is the blur event firing on this item. So that's another way you could basically achieve the same effect as clicking anywhere on the page, except clicking inside the same element wouldn't do it. You have to click somewhere else. So then you could do this, and then you could save it whenever that loses focus, either by clicking off of it or hitting tab. That would do it too. That totally works. The way I'm going to do it in class is with a button, but that totally works. So I'm going to take content editable true off of here. And I'm going to add it when I click on a button. So before the move up button, as the very first button in this group, I'm going to make a new one. Class of success and a button. I want it to be green. It's going to have a child that is an I with a class of FA and a class of, let's see here. If I look for edit. Ooh, I get a pencil. I like that. Let's go FA-pencil. And again, we could say aria hidden equals true. There we go. I did that again. Oops. Check it out. And notice it still spaces out okay. If we make it much narrower than that, we start to have some goofy layout problems, but we'll worry about that in a minute. So now we need to add some behavior to this button. When something happens, do what? So when we click on that particular button, we want to make the thing editable. So in app.js, with all our event listeners, we have one more button to mess with. Morning class is having all kinds of fun over there. Button.edit. I gave it a class of edit. Right? Or did I not? I did not. And then I'm going to call one called edit or edit dyno, whatever you want to call it. Edit dyno works. Again, I'll bind it to this and pass the dyno in as an argument. Let's make that exist. Edit dyno, dyno event. Don't forget the comma. And I can say console log dyno just to make sure that's hooked up. Yay. All right, so what do we actually want to do? We want to make it editable, and we just learned that the contentEditable attribute does that. So we could set the attribute, but contentEditable is also just a property of a DOM node, so we can just set that to true. So let's again grab the list item. And then we need to find that span, right? Which has a class of dyno name. That's where we actually put the name of the dinosaur. So I could say name field equals list item, query selector, dot dyno dash name. And then I can make it editable. So name field dot content editable equals true. Refresh. Right now it's not. If I click here, nothing happens. If I click the button and then I click there, it becomes editable. But I probably want to be able to click this again and make it not editable anymore. So let's check to see if it's already editable. I'm going to inspect this. And notice when you inspect, right here next to the element that you have highlighted, is this equal $0. What that means is that in the console right now, I can refer to that element as $0. Very handy when you're experimenting or troubleshooting. And if I select a different one, let's inspect this instead. You see, it now says $0. And guess what? $1 holds the previous one. Very handy, a lot easier than console logging sometimes if you need to fiddle around with it. So I'm going to fiddle around with it. I'm going to say $1, start typing contentEditable, and we'll see some other matches, like is contentEditable. Let's see what contentEditable is right now. Inherit? What? If you don't set it to anything else, it's going to be inherit by default. So is that true or false? We have this other property called is contentEditable. That is actually true or false. So that's what we should check. We can't change that when it's read-only. When we need to change it, we need to set contentEditable. But is contentEditable can tell us whether it is editable or not at any given point. So let's check if name field is contentEditable. Then we want to make it no longer editable. And we want to make sure we save those changes. Else, we'll do this. make it editable. So let's do the easy part first. Change that to false. Refresh the page. Not editable right now. Now it is. And now it ain't. Uh-oh. 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 There's an E on the end of editable. It is editable. Now it ain't. So that turns editing on and off, but it doesn't do anything with what we typed in there yet. So how can we save the changes? What we're typing in there is the name, right? And we have the Dino object right here in our arguments. So we could just say dino.name equals name field what? If it were a form input, it would be .value, right? But it's not. This is really just a span. It's just an editable span. So it would actually be the text content. You're actually editing the text content directly when you do this. And then, of course, this .save. Try that out. Not editable. Editable. Click it again. No longer editable. And if we refresh the page, it's still there. We can edit. Go us. So why does any of this work? Why does changing the name here actually change it in the array? We didn't actually mess with the array, did we? Why does this work? Objects in JavaScript, this does not apply to strings or numbers or things like that. But objects, you always pass around by reference, not by value. So when I have this object and I push it onto an array, if I change the object in the original place, it actually changes it in the array because it didn't add a copy of it to the array. It added the actual object itself to the array. So if we go messing with the original, that changes it in the array too. So that's why all this stuff has been this easy. And then we pass it as an argument to another function. Still, not a copy. It's the original object, the same one that's in the array. Not one like it, the exact same one. So if we go changing the name, we change it in the array too. So when we save it to local storage, that change has been made.